is Emily here with Jan's Garden at the North Texas Food Bank, and welcome to our next episode of Homegrown to Homecooked.
Hey everybody, I'm Linnyette Richardson-Hall, and I'm one of the culinary instructor volunteers with Cooking Matters. I'm taking what's in the garden and bringing it to the kitchen so you can take it to the table.
Today we're talking all about strawberries, so let's head over to our strawberry bed to see what's growing. Alright, so here we are in Jan's garden by one of our strawberry beds. We actually have other plants growing in this bed along with the strawberries, but these are our two main original strawberry plants. We now have about 5 or 6 different plants that were unexpected here in the garden thanks to birds and wind. So strawberries are really fun to grow because you can get a lot of plants out of one. And one way to do that is through propagation, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. Growing your own strawberries are really fun because it's simple, they're great for containers. So if you're tight on space, maybe you have a balcony or a patio, this is a great plant to grow. Also, you can see the difference right here of store-bought strawberries versus our garden-grown organic strawberries. There's a size difference. However, these small little guys are gonna pack such a punch of sweetness. There really is a huge difference between store-bought and your garden-grown fresh strawberries. There are 3 main types of strawberries that you can buy. There's a lot of different varieties, but there are 3 general types. And this is gonna tell you when and how long these strawberry plants are gonna produce. So the first one is June bearing. June bearing strawberries are like they sound. They're gonna produce their fruit right around June. There's also ever-bearing strawberries, and these strawberries are going to be giving you about 2 harvests, one at the beginning of summer and one towards the end. And those harvests are going to be a little bit smaller than your June-bearing ones. And then finally we have our day-neutral strawberries. And day-neutral strawberries are going to produce on and off throughout the warm months of the season. So there are a couple different types that you can choose from. These varieties that we have here were actually planted before I arrived at the food bank. But what I can tell you is that they started to produce fruit, and you could see the fruit forming beginning in mid-March. And by late April, early May, we were harvesting strawberries. Like most plants, strawberries grow best between 60 and 80 degrees. But they can withstand a frost or a freeze. So these guys right here in this bed, I actually did not cover at all for the freezes we had in February. And they look gorgeous. They've done wonderful and they produce more than they ever have before. I would suggest that if you see blooms or flowers or strawberries beginning to form on your plant, to be sure to cover that to make sure that you don't lose those berries or flowers, or to set back that crop that you're looking so forward to for summer. So that's for early spring, frosts and freezes as well. Strawberries, as you can see, can be grown in raised beds. That's what we have here. They can also be grown in containers. Make sure that your container has proper drainage, that it's at least a foot wide by a foot deep. The root systems for strawberries are about 6 to 12 inches, so they're pretty shallow, but you do want to make sure that you space them properly. So if you're growing them in a raised bed, you want to make sure they're spaced at least a foot apart, 1 to 2 feet, because they're going to produce runners, which are going to take up space in that raised bed or wherever you're planting them. If you're doing them in a pot, you can grow them closer together because the runners can cascade down the side of the pot. There is a certain pot or container used for growing strawberries if you would like to use that, and it's called a strawberry pot. And it's just an urn-shaped pot, and it has pockets around the outside of the pot, and you can plant your strawberry plants right in there, and it's spaced out inside the pot, so again, those runners can cascade down. So it's a really great plant, again, for raised beds or for those balcony or patio gardens that you have. So you can grow your own fresh, delicious berries with a very small amount of space. One of the reasons strawberries are really fun to grow is because they're very easy to propagate. When I say propagate, I mean they're very easy to reproduce. One plant can give you multiple clone plants, also called daughter plants, and this right here is the main plant, or what's called the mother plant. So, to propagate strawberry plants, they use what's called runners. Runners are just horizontal stems, they're also called stolons, and at each one of these, right along the stem, you're going to see flowers growing. Each of those is a clone plant, and that is just a brand new plant that's growing at each of those nodes. So to propagate these, it's really, really simple. It's really important that your new little plants here form new roots. You can kind of see roots growing here, and they're going to form whenever they make contact with the soil. So you can either leave your runners in the bed, take a garden staple, and just stick it right by that plant to make sure that it makes contact with the soil and begins to root. Or you can do what we're about to do right now. So I have a 4-inch pot of potting soil mixed with compost, And what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of cut out one extra step, because if you just propagate by putting your garden staple right onto this in the bed, then you have to dig it up and put it in a new pot. But we're gonna cut out one step right now. So I'm gonna do this little runner right here, this little guy. It's got 1, 2, 3 sets of leaves. That's a really good set of leaves. It doesn't have any roots yet though. So I'm gonna bury this 4-inch pot. So I'm gonna dig a hole really quickly, and I'm gonna bury this 4-inch pot in the bed. Now this pot again has really good soil and compost in it that I wanted to make sure that the strawberry can start growing in the soil. I'm gonna stick the runner, okay, right here. Here's a little plant. I'm just gonna set it in the pot right there. And then I'm gonna put my garden staple over the plant to make sure that it stays in the pot. Okay, I'm gonna kind of bury my pot down in here. And there we go. Once it has about 1 to 2 more sets of leaves and really starts to root, I'm gonna cut this off from the mother plant. You can cut it all the way back here, and you'll have a new strawberry plant, the same exact as the main mother plant. Strawberry plants are gonna be really great and heavy producers for about 2 to 3 seasons. The first season that you have a strawberry plant, it's really important to pinch off any flowers that you see and to even cut off runners. Strawberry plants don't know when to quit. They just wanna reproduce and make fruit. In order for you to have healthier plants for future subsequent crop harvests, and to make sure that those crops are even bigger, you wanna make sure that the first season, to make sure that plant grows big and strong, you wanna make sure you cut off those runners and those flowers, just to make sure the plant gets stronger and puts energy into a great root system and a healthy plant.
Hey Emily, thanks so much for giving us all that information on strawberries. Who knew that such a little fruit could pack some punch? But now to the cooking part. We're gonna take that harvest. Aren't these not gorgeous? Look at these beautiful berries. We're gonna take these and turn them into two different delicious items. First, we're gonna start off with doing a fresh strawberry vinaigrette. Now, I'm a fan of salads, totally, but sometimes people just, when you know what you like, you kind of do what you do. Why not use fresh fruit to be the base for an awesome salad dressing? So with that being said, I've got some cut strawberries here. We're gonna cut them up. And this is actually very simple. What we wanna do is you wanna take the tops off of your strawberries. And as always, please make sure you are rinsing your produce well. For this recipe, for this strawberry vinaigrette, we want to do about a cup, or a little bit more, of our fresh strawberries. Now, if you're working with your kids, make sure that you're keeping sharp instruments away from them. This is a great activity to do as a family, but what you want to do is make sure that the bigger kids are in charge of the sharper stuff, or parents. This is also a great recipe if it's just you, single person, empty nester, or if you're just people who are sitting back, enjoying your golden years. As we get warmer, as it's about to get hot here in Texas, this is a refreshing dish that I think you will love. So if you notice, just taking the knife and we're cutting the strawberries in half. You can never have enough berries in this dish. It's a sweetly tangy recipe that I think your family will love. Alrighty. Now let's see if I'm right. We want about a cup. Linnyette says we'll have a little bit more. That's approximately a cup of sliced strawberries, but because I'm in a generous mood, we're going to do a little bit more. Because again, we can never have enough fruit. For this, I'm going to put them in the blender. Now, here's a quick tip. If you don't have a blender or food processor on hand, you can do this the old-fashioned way. The old-fashioned way is simply take your sliced strawberries with a little bit of water, just a tiny bit. Put them in a saucepan, small saucepan, and let them boil down a little bit to make them soft. Once they're done, you want to take a little sieve or strainer like this or a colander, and you'll take your spoon and mash the strawberries down you want to get the juice to make it nice and juicy. That works just as well. To give the dressing a little bit more flavor, you're going to take your wet ingredients, in this case the balsamic vinegar and the honey and the olive oil, and you're going to pour it over the strawberries, and you want to let it sit for about 20 minutes or so. Why? Because it's going to absorb all this great tangy flavor that you can then pop it into the blender. So with that being said, we're going to go with olive oil, 3 tablespoons of olive oil. So that's when it comes out. So that's 1, 2, 3. I'm going to add an extra one for good measure because I have a little extra few strawberries. Alrighty, we're going to go for a tablespoon of balsamic vinegar. Now, you can use apple cider vinegar if you like. I like balsamic because it has a wonderful tang to it. So a tablespoon of balsamic. One of the things you don't want to do is go overboard with your balsamic because it'll make it super tangy and I don't think you'll enjoy the sweetness. We want to do a 1/4 teaspoon of minced garlic. Now this is jarred, but you can use fresh if you have it. You can dice your cloves and that's fine. Mince them finely. And we want to do a tablespoon of honey. Now I know that strawberries are naturally sweet, but this just will give it an added sweetness, and it's a good pair with our balsamic vinegar. There we go. We're going to pop that in. Remember, I have a few extra strawberries, so I'm gonna put a few more dollops in. One of the great things about cooking, and I tell everyone, is be intuitive. It's okay, if you're using more fruit, sure, go ahead and add a little bit more to make sure that you're getting what you need. Okay, we've got that in. Now, trusty blender, we're gonna put this on liquefy because that's what we wanted to do. It's going to be loud, don't worry about it. Take the doggies away. And what you're going to want to do is you want to poke the bear, so to speak, to make sure that we're getting everything all nice and liquefied. All right, let's take a look. Aha. Yep. It's amazing how fast this can liquefy down. Look at that. From those beautiful ripe berries that we had, add a little magic, and this is what you get. So this is our creamy vinaigrette. It is light, it's airy, it's gonna have a special tang for the second part of the dish that we're gonna make. So the great thing about recipes like this is we can use the bounty of our harvest, in this case our strawberries, to even add more life to another dish. In this case, it's going to be a fruited chicken salad. You're thinking fruit plus chicken? Where do you see it? It's going to be amazing. So I've got a skillet that's heating up here, to which we're going to add 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And what you want is you want your pan on medium because we need it to shimmer. You'll be able to look at your pan and see that it's got that beautiful glow to it. That's what we want. Now, I'm gonna put on rubber gloves because we are working with poultry. I highly encourage this because poultry can be a little bit slippery at times, not to mention it's sanitary. And speaking of sanitary, in your kitchen, what you're looking to do is never ever use the same cutting board for raw meat, for vegetables, anything. I use this cutting board for fruit. I'm using this cutting board for my meat. You want boneless, skinless chicken breasts like these that we're going to place on our cutting board. And we're going to slice them in half because that way we can get more chicken. So you're just going to make it a nice little slice, pocket if you will, and we'll cut it down again. So now instead of one chicken breast, we now have two. And we'll repeat this again for the other breast. Alrighty. Alrighty. Next up, we're going to season these chicken breasts. We're going to season them lightly because it doesn't require much. Chicken is a dish that holds flavor really, 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 really well. So we're going to do a teaspoon of garlic powder that we're going to sprinkle all over our meat. You want to do each side evenly. Next up, we're going to do some salt and pepper. In this case, we're going to do it by sight. So this will be also about a teaspoon of ground black pepper. Very simple. And something that I think is so super fun is paprika. Fun fact, when you add paprika to chicken, to poultry, as it cooks, it gives it a little bit of a golden texture when you don't have skin. So remember that. Also too, as we're putting in our spices, we can rub them through the meat so that they are well incorporated. And that's all you need. In this case, a little will go a long, long way. So notice how I'm kind of massaging it into our meat. And last but not least is salt. We don't need much at all. So in this case, we're gonna work with about a teaspoon of kosher salt. I recommend that you use kosher or sea salt instead of iodized salt. These are purer forms. You don't need much, but they're a lot healthier for you. Same thing, we're gonna just pat, 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 pat. Okay, done. That wasn't so hard. So now that we have that done and our pan is definitely hot, definitely hot and shimmering, we're gonna add our chicken in. Hear that sizzle? That's what you want. The great thing about chicken breasts, they cook quickly, but cutting them in half like this, you're exposing more surface of the chicken to the heat, therefore it will cook quickly. Now these will take about 8 to 10 minutes to get done. You want to flip them halfway through to make sure that they are cooked well. All right, so while our chicken is cooking, I'm going to take a quick break to wash our hands, or to wash my hands, so that we can continue making our salad. With this, we're going to be using greens. Now, since we've got bounty from the garden with the strawberries, why not use some fresh lettuces? Now, this is a butter lettuce. It is beautiful. It looks almost like a flower, which is why I probably like it. But here's a quick tip. To keep your lettuce fresh, dampen a paper towel and store your lettuce. So that way it won't go bad. So we're going to take our sharp knife, remember, parents, kids, older kids, this is for you. And we're just going to lightly cut the bottom because I want that core part. Let me show you what that looks like. See that part? We don't want that in our salad at all. And we'll just toss that here into our little container. And then I'm just going to lightly cut the leaves. You can also tear them if you want this to be an activity for the whole family to enjoy. And we'll put them into a salad bowl. Alrighty. Now, to add a little oomph and some color, we've got a spring mix salad. In this case, it's bagged, which is fine. If that's what your resource is, you can use that. And we just want to take it. Now, I like to keep the spring mix salad a little bit larger just for texture. And we'll take it. Remember, we're working with clean hands. And we'll mix it through. There we go. Next up, we're going to add in some red onion. Again, for a little bit more color. You want to remove that papery outer skin from the onion. Sharp knife. Cut down the top. Cut the bottom. And then we're going to cut our onion very thin. And you take the onion rings, because that's what they become, and you put them in your salad. Core out, rings in. That's a good way to remember it. Alrighty. Next up, some protein. Now, if you don't eat meat, let me give you a vegetarian option that you can work with. Garbanzo beans, chickpeas, low in sodium. When you're opening your can, make sure you're draining off the liquid. So I have some ready here. These are lovely. They've got just the right amount of crunch and softness to them. So we're going to do approximately 1/4 cup of our chickpeas. You could do some additional sliced strawberries from the ones that we had. And for another level of sweetness, how about we add in some mandarin oranges? All right, we've got our mandarin oranges in. And this chicken is cooking, almost done. So when it's done, we will remove it to a cutting board. Remember, let it cool, because we don't want to cut hot chicken. But in the meantime, in between time, I have some chicken that's already prepared. And I've cut it into bite-sized chunks. So you're just going to take a handful, again, depending on what you like. So we've added our cooked chicken. And now for a little lovely bit of tang, we've got some feta cheese. In this case, these are feta cheese crumbles. So they're already chopped, diced, and mixed for you to go. We'll add just a few sprinkles to our dish. There we go. Feta cheese is a great tangy addition to any salad. Remember our vinaigrette. You can take it from our blender and we can pour it on. The great thing about this is it smells awesome. We can just do a simple pour like so. And you want to drizzle the vinaigrette all over the salad. There you go. Now, you can put it in a container on the side for those who want extra. And for that last little bit of crunch, how about some walnuts? Now, if you are nut sensitive or you have nut allergies, not needed, but for those of you who are not, this is another source of protein, especially if you're vegetarian. We're trying to load you up with protein. So these are chopped walnuts, just a handful. So now you've got crunchy, tangy, sweet, savory, all in one dish. So look at this amazing salad. You've got everything you need for healthy eating here. We've got protein from our chicken. We've got our fresh veggies, our lettuces, our onions. We've got garbanzo beans for extra protein. We've got feta cheese for a lovely tang. There's your dairy. And we've got some walnuts for crunch. Don't forget the fruits. Yes, more strawberries and a bit of sweet mandarin oranges. Now, who knew that you could take the bounty of the harvest, a lowly strawberry, and turn it into such an amazing dish? All right, so I've got Emily here with me, and we're going to taste the bounty of the garden. These beautiful, juicy strawberries have been turned into an awesome creamy vinaigrette and this amazing fruited chicken salad. So, are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready. This salad looks beautiful, y'all.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, I'm gonna give you a nice portion of this. Make sure you get some of the vinaigrette.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
I love people who are excited. That's for you.
Thank you.
And, well, I mean, the chef should have some too.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so I'm already seeing chickpeas. What kind of cheese is this?
This is feta. So we've got a lovely crumbled feta along with our chickpeas. We've got mandarin oranges. We've got red onions. We've got some crunchy walnuts.
Oh my gosh, this sounds got it all, y'all.
Yes, so have a taste. Now, do the fruit with the lettuce so you can see how that goes. See, when people say, that's how it should be. And see, this is something that's beautiful and light for the spring and summer because you know it gets hot here in Texas.
Yeah.
So this is easy to do.
This is gonna be your lunch all week if you make this.
Yes, meal prep. So if you wanted to do meal prep, you would prep all of the greens. You would not add any of the other ingredients until the day of. Or you could put them in like little tiny containers to separate them out and then kind of mix and match. Good to go.
I love it. The chicken's delicious. The vinaigrette is wonderful.
Thank you.
Outstanding. It's a beautiful pink color, great for summer. Highly recommend. Well, thank you all so much for joining us for this episode, and we hope to see you next time.
Bye.